Greetings and welcome to In Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Rhea Simone Auguste, or Simmy de Trini, is so much more than what you notice at first glance, whatever you notice. Comedian, entertainer, radio personality on Talk City 91.1 FM, mother and more. Now we have a range of topics to discuss with her, including her first ever show on March 5. Welcome, Simmy. I want to say thank you so much for making the time. And now, you ended in comedy as a career. And yes, you have a quick wit. Yes, you're able to be funny. But take me through the process of saying, okay, well, yes, I have these things, but I'm working on a craft of building out a set. Thank you.
So I would have started in 2017, and I would have started doing stand-up comedy in a smaller setting like Kaiso Blues Cafe, Woodford Cafe, and those type of spaces. And it wasn't intended for this to be a long-term career decision or career path. But as time passed, and because of the pandemic, and even with what was going on in my own life and trying to get jobs and applying for things, I continued doing stand-up comedy. And it just grew as a passion until it opened its own doors. There's no other way to describe it other than to say it opened its own doors. As much as I progressed, people started to recognize me from social media. I started to get advertising opportunities. I think the one that most people would be familiar with would be Super Cow Milk. So having that ad campaign and having that visibility on a national scale continued opening doors for me. And having a stand-up comedy show, especially one on a grander scale in a venue like Queen's Hall, is something that I've always dreamed of having. So this is the step for me at this time in my life. It's a step in the right direction. I have a lot of people who are followers on social media, but they're more than that. I feel like they're my friends, they're a village, they're a community. And how I do stand-up comedy isn't necessarily a situation where we just share randomly on stage. It's a show that I've been planning and conceptualizing and working on because I felt like I needed something more out of it. It can't be just telling jokes for telling jokes' sake. There must be some sort of purpose. And I love the idea of living a purpose life. So that's where Stand Up for Something really took hold and took root. And the decision was made to continue doing this show in 2023.
And definitely we're going to speak about the show and the rationale behind it even more as the conversation progresses. But it is one thing to say this is something that you wanted to do all your life, looking at a venue like the Queen's Hall. But saying that eventually I want to do that versus about to do it, you're on the cusp of it. What does the industry look like to you? What does the playing field look like as these doors are opening for you?
Okay, so the industry is very different here in that, as far as I've seen it, how people have structured their shows, especially when speaking about comedy shows, it's always come see the latest drama and bacchanal. And I'm not a drama and bacchanal type person. And I feel like when I hear Queen's Hall, I think more theater. And I have a very strong theater background, which a lot of people don't know. So, for instance, I was one of the last mentees of Raymond Chukong in the Mentorship with the Masters program through the Ministry of Culture. I come from a theater background from the University of the West Indies. I would have been taught professionally how to deal with theater productions. And Queen's Hall is that type of spacing that I feel as though industry-wise, you can throw a comedy show in a bar. You can have a comedy show anywhere. But when you're talking Queen's Hall, you know you want to put that extra special finish on it. And that's why I said it's something that I've looked forward to, I've thought about, and I would not have any other place to have this as my first show experience, my big show experience, where I'll be able to film it and get clips of my stand-up to an audience of people who I have built relationships with so that I can continue my career, not just locally, but regionally and internationally. Now, going back to what you're saying about the industry, part of what I feel is a challenge for those of us who are in comedy. When you look at Netflix and you look at shows like Dave Chappelle's stand-up comedy shows, Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, a lot of these comedians, they produce these shows and they have them on Netflix. And they also open doors. Like, for instance, Tiffany Haddish has opened doors with her She Ready program. And they pick comedians from all over the world, from Europe, from Canada, from India, and we see a complete shortage of comedians moving forward from the Caribbean. Now, a large part of that may come from the fact that, again, what we have been exposed to as comedy has always been a bit more theatrical, visual, slapstick, a bit on the wild and very local commerce and bacchanal front, as opposed to traditional American stand-up comedy, where all you have is a microphone and a stage. And being able to have the material and the content in that context where you're conversating with people in a way that makes them laugh. And that's more of what I'm going for with my show. And that's more of what I'm going for with my brand in general. I want to have a kind of stand-up comedy brand that can hold up in Trinidad, but can also, I can do jokes or do my stand-up regionally or internationally, and it would still translate to audiences, English-speaking audiences, anywhere in the world.
And with that, we take a short break. We return into this conversation. And I really like how you're nuancing and making these qualifiers. And we get back into that when we return. Stay with us. We're speaking with Simmy de Trini. We come back with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with Rhea Simone Auguste, the Simmy de Trini, and in that first half, we realized that there's so many sides, this multiplicity of not issues, but things and factors making up this individual. And with that, I want to start this half of the conversation, please, Simmy, on the IREX Community Solutions Program. What is it? How do you engage with it?
Okay, so the IREX Community Solutions Program is funded by the U.S. Department of State, and it's an annual program that usually seeks out what they consider the best and brightest people that can forward an area in their community. So they're looking for people who they believe can make a genuine difference in their community. And in 2021, I would have applied. Like everyone else, I saw the application online and I said, oh, this sounds like me. I want to do something good for people. I would like to be able to make a difference in the world in some way, in a positive way. And I saw the application and I sent it in. And I found out that out of 8,000 plus applications from all over the world, they narrowed it down to a little over 100 people. And 2 people were selected from Trinidad and Tobago, myself, and Rizan Martin from Brown Cotton Theatre. It's essentially NGO-driven and NGO-based, again, because they're pushing that idea of helping in your community. And I was selected because I had presented to the panel my idea for neurodivergence in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly children with ADHD. And that's because I myself was diagnosed at age 13 with ADHD, and I have a son with ADHD. For those of you who don't know what ADHD is, it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And there are so many children in our nation's schools who are undiagnosed right now and maybe having a lot of challenges in our school system because neurodivergent children learn differently. Similarly to autism, ADHD is a spectrum disorder. And so you see a lot of children who have difficulties in the classroom setting, particularly for those who have challenges with our model of sit down, read, and regurgitate. ADHD children can be a bit hyper. I am a bit hyper, a lot less now than I used to be as a child, but I definitely am hyperactive, perhaps more on a mental scale. I'm always thinking and always, I have so many different ideas going at the same time. And I went to IREX with my plan, which is a community action plan to work with children who have attention deficit hyperactivity in our schools and help these children to have better self-esteem, to understand that nothing is wrong with being different and that you can channel what you have into the arts, and we can use the arts, which I feel a lot of what we are doing is very back to front. We need to incorporate more of the arts in our education. Children learn a song so easily, and yet we would not use music as a tool in our classrooms or use these types of things like theater in our classrooms to teach lessons. And there are so many neurodivergent children, especially children with ADHD, who stand to benefit from more hands-on learning techniques, from different strategies. So IREX placed me to do my practicum with an organization in Texas, and they helped me to understand even more, going beyond ADHD, children who have trauma, children who have different backgrounds that cause them to have challenges in a classroom setting, and the different styles that they use at this place called at this place called, why am I not remembering?
Not a problem. We can get back to the name when you remember it. But at the same...
I will remember it. It's tip of my tongue. I'm juggling a few things. It is nope.
But just before you remember though, and I'm glad that you actually took a pause at this point in time, how does moving from that practicum translate to your first steps here in implementing that idea?
Okay, so it's Gemini Inc., right? And I'm so sorry that I forgot it there for a second, and I'm sure that if they're seeing this, they're probably laughing, because I'm like, why? Why did I not remember this? How do I translate the community action plan into other areas is by helping these children in classroom settings through workshops. And with the workshops, what we do is we taper the experience from a creative perspective and use the arts more in the classroom. Having another workshop over the July-August period, and I'm looking for children as well. Usually we would put out an all children ad and see from there if any parents who have their children who have been diagnosed are interested in participating in a program with us, so that they can have that boost of self-confidence. Because what a lot of people don't realize is it takes a toll on you. Mentally, it takes a toll on you when you are in our school system and you don't fit in academically or otherwise, because you are unable to fit what is needed in a classroom setting for neurotypicals. And as you get older, that negative reinforcement, you find a lot of children experience that, myself included. I was in a school environment where a lot of children didn't quite understand. So it made socializing very difficult for me. And I want to make sure that our next generation of children like my son, don't have to experience what I did going through our school system and end up in adulthood feeling as though, well, I'm different and I'm not sure how to fit in these ways.
And that sounds like standing up for something. So in the last minute and a half, it's all yours. Tell us more about the show, how people can engage, where do we get tickets, what time, and anything else that you think is pertinent information. Thank you.
Okay, so Stand Up for Something is happening at Queen's Hall, Sunday, March 5th. It's inside the International Women's Week. I have another female comedian who's going to be with me as well. Her name is Luris Martin Leasing. And we have a long program that is packed tightly with all of my favorite local stand-up comedians, talent that a lot of people, I feel, should be exposed to, all of us standing up for something in our own right. So, for instance, we have Kevin Sawyer, who is disabled, but he is phenomenal. And he is such a talented comedian that I wanted to make sure that he was part of my cast. Kwame Weeks, who is a teacher, and all of these comedians who, they're coming from backgrounds where it's a bit educational in a sense. So when people come to my show, I expect them to learn, to laugh, and to leave with a joyful spirit. This isn't about bacchanal and drama. This is good, feel-good stand-up comedy for adults, because it's not really child-friendly material in some cases, but it's something I feel as though it would be relatable for a lot of adults who love stand-up comedy.
And with that, we want to thank you so much, Rhea Simone Auguste. Simmy de
Thank you
Trini.
so much for having me.
Yeah, man, definitely our pleasure. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you so much for joining us.